Let's talk about the golden age of Hollywood. There was one name that was basically the definition of glamour: Hedy Lamarr. But what if I told you that one of the most beautiful movie stars ever was also the mind behind an invention that, well, powers our modern wireless world? Yeah, the very tech connecting you to this right now.
And I mean, she was a massive star. People were just captivated by her in movies like Algiers and the blockbuster Samson and Delilah. On screen, she was this mysterious, glamorous icon, an image the studio worked really hard to create. But that image, that was only a tiny piece of the real story.
This quote just says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly captures her sharp wit and probably her frustration. Hedy Lamarr was the exact opposite of the stereotype she was describing. She knew the world just saw a pretty face, but behind the scenes she was leading a whole other secret life, miles away from any movie set.
So while everyone else was watching her on the silver screen, this was what she was working on. U.S. patent number 2292387, a secret communication system designed to help the Allies fight the Nazis. It was an idea that was literally decades ahead of its time.
Okay, so how on earth does one of Hollywood's biggest stars end up co-authoring a patent that becomes a precursor to things like secure Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and even GPS? Well, let's dive in and break down this incredible story.
To really understand the inventor, we've got to peel back those layers of Hollywood glamour and find the source of her amazing, curious mind.
You know, this curiosity wasn't something she just picked up. It started really early. As a little kid, she took apart a music box just to see how it worked, and her dad totally encouraged that passion. This serious hobby kept going right into her Hollywood years, where she had an inventor's drafting table in her home. But the real key, and this is wild, came from her first marriage to an Austrian arms dealer. She was forced to sit through his business dinners, where she just silently soaked up every single detail about weapons technology, especially radio-controlled torpedoes.
So then, World War II hits. Hedy's safe in America, but she's watching what's happening in Europe, and she is desperate to use her secret knowledge to help. And this desperation leads her to one of the most unlikely collaborations you can possibly imagine.
So here was the huge problem the Allies were facing. The radio-controlled torpedoes had this one massive, fatal flaw. An enemy could easily find the single radio frequency that was guiding the weapon, jam it with interference, and just send the torpedo completely off course. And Nazi U-boats were using this weakness to cause devastating losses.
Hedy had an idea bubbling up, but she knew she couldn't do it alone. She needed a partner. And she found one in, of all people, George Antheil, a guy known as the bad boy of music. He was this really out-there composer, famous for synchronizing a bunch of player pianos all at once in his pieces. And that very specific, very weird skill, synchronization, was the exact missing piece to her puzzle. So get this, the two of them, the movie star and the composer, literally sketched out their first idea on a cocktail napkin. It was this brilliant mashup of Hedy's knowledge about weapons and George's crazy expertise in synchronization.
Their core concept was called frequency hopping, and it was totally revolutionary. The idea was, instead of using one single easy-to-jam radio frequency, what if the signal jumped around rapidly and randomly between a whole bunch of different frequencies? You see, an enemy can't jam a signal if they have no idea where it's going to be from one split second to the next.
Now, to make it work, they used an analogy right out of Antheil's world, the player piano. Okay, so imagine the transmitter and the torpedo's receiver are two separate pianos. They both have the exact same synchronized paper roll inside. That's the secret key. Just like a piano has 88 keys, they decided to use 88 radio frequencies. As that secret paper roll turns on both devices at the exact same time, the signal plays a secret tune, hopping between frequencies in a pattern that only the transmitter and the receiver could possibly know.
And here it is. This is the actual patent for that system. You can even see the diagrams of the physical mechanism inspired by those piano rolls that was designed to make this whole frequency hopping thing a reality. They got their secret communication system patented in 1942 and immediately offered it up to the U.S. Navy.
They were sure they had a war-winning invention on their hands, but the military's response was, well, let's just say it was not what they were expecting.
Yeah, the Navy was skeptical, to say the least. A player piano mechanism inside a torpedo? It must have sounded completely absurd to them. They ended up dismissing the whole invention as too cumbersome, just too impractical to actually build. The technology of the 1940s just hadn't caught up to their vision yet, so the patent was classified as top secret, and then just filed away. And then just silence.
The patent expired in 1959. They never saw a dime, never got any credit. But here's the crazy part. By the 1960s, once electronics got small enough, the military secretly started using their idea. They even used frequency hopping during the Cuban Missile Crisis. And still, Hedy's name was nowhere to be found. It wasn't until 1997 that the tech world finally started to acknowledge her contribution.
Her response to finally getting that award from the Electronic Frontier Foundation was just perfect. Classic Hedy. Just 5 simple words that said absolutely everything. Well, it's about time.
So now that her story is finally getting out there, it often gets boiled down to this one simple headline. Hedy Lamarr invented Wi-Fi. But her true legacy is, of course, way more complex, and honestly, a lot more interesting than that.
Okay, here's the key takeaway. That fundamental principle they patented, the thing we now call spread spectrum communication, is the absolute cornerstone of our wireless world. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, they all rely on this foundational idea of spreading a signal across a wide range of frequencies.
So let's separate the legend from the reality for a second. Did she invent Wi-Fi? No. But her patent was a critical first step towards it. Was she the very first person to ever think of frequency hopping? Not exactly, but her idea of using it to guide torpedoes was completely new. And was she a trained engineer? No, and that's what makes her story so remarkable. She was a brilliant, self-taught innovator who figured out how to connect 2 totally different worlds, music and military tech.
So when we look back, what should we really remember as her true contribution? Because it goes so much deeper than just this one single patent.
Her legacy is really one of defiance. She defied that lazy stereotype that you can't be both beautiful and brilliant. She was a pioneer of interdisciplinary thinking, mashing up art and technology. Her story is this powerful reminder that sometimes the most groundbreaking ideas are just way ahead of their time. And ultimately, she's become an icon for every unrecognized innovator out there.
And that leaves us with one final question to think about. Hedy Lamarr's genius was right there, hiding in plain sight, but it was dismissed because she didn't look like what people thought an inventor should look like. So it makes you wonder, whose brilliant ideas are we overlooking today simply because they're coming from the most unexpected people and the most unexpected places?